Hello and welcome, I'm Mystical, this is Mystical Gaming. We're jumping into Watcher of Realms and we're having a look not at Esme but at poisons. So many poison champions about today, I thought it would be nice to take a quick look at them, make sure we're all happy and aware of what they actually do. So, using Esme because her talent, basic attack, has a 50% chance to bounce to one extra target, fine, but she has a 30% chance to inflict poison on the target. So what does poison do? So poison's debuff, it goes on to the mob or boss for 10 seconds and it deals 5% continuous magic damage per second, stacking up to 10 times. Poison effects from different sources can coexist. Okay, so we'll take a jump into that, we'll have a look at what it does and how it works and all that sort of good stuff. We'll try it out in different scenarios and see which bits of gear and artifacts and that sort of stuff it actually works. Jump into the first fight and we'll just chuck a poison down and we'll see what it actually does and how it affects the boss, all that sort of good stuff. So we put our Esme down and we're faced towards the boss and we hit the boss. There we go, we've got poison on there and we can see our poison hits for 149 points of damage. Brilliant, there we go. That's what it does. Now if we have a look at this again, 2 lots of poisons stack and they hit for 298 points of damage, which is great because that is 2 lots of the previous one. So there we go, that's all it does. It's fantastic. And then if we put it down, we can see there we've got poison 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. So each second, because it goes on for 10 seconds, hit therefore the 149 points of damage. It hit that for 10 times during the 10 seconds. There we go, once every second, and then the debuff removes itself. So brilliant, we're aware of what it does. Now the thing is, we want to test it out, so we'll put it down at Dolores and we'll make sure she's okay, and then we can find out how we're doing with our buffs and can we buff our poison damage and that sort of thing. Now bear in mind this is only about poisons, it's not about all the other abilities that the champion has. So we put down our champion, we apply our poison, there we go, we hit for 149, we can just see it right at the top of the screen just above the boss's health bar, 149 points of damage. Now we then hit our second one. Now our second one, now we've got our inspiration buff on us, it hits for 1004. There's a massive jump. It hasn't jumped by the 149, it's jumped massively to 1004. Now if we roll this forward and we hit a third stack of poison, there's our third stack. We've now gone from 1000 to 1500. So our poisons are hitting for 500 points of damage per stack. Okay, so it actually recalculates all the stacks each time you reapply. So it was putting on for 149, but it's now said your damage is your 5% damage that you're outputting would do 500 points of damage. You've got 3 stacks on there, therefore 3 stacks does 1500 points of damage. Okay, so if you put the inspiration buff on afterwards and you're dealing up more stacks, then you'll get more damage. Now bear in mind it recalculates this every time, so the reverse of this is also true. So if we went the other way around and our inspiration buff fell off and we then put another stack on, maybe we've got our 4th stack on, it would then calculate that we are at 149 points of damage times 4, and then it would recalculate that for us. Okay, so this is sort of an ebb and flow scenario. Okay, I don't think there's a great deal you can do about it, but it might be something you'll have to be aware of on when you want to trigger everything. So just a little bit careful or a little bit of knowledge there of what's actually happened with regards to your poison buffs. Okay, you can't sort of, I don't think you can really plan for it that much. Okay, now the other thing the poison buffs could do, if we get a load of poison champions, we can put them down all at the same time. It did say that poisons from different sources can coexist at the same time. So we can chuck down loads of poison heroes, and there we go. You can see we've got loads of poisons going on there. There we are. And that's what it means. So they're all coming from, there's 4 different poisons up there. We've got 4 different poisoners, so they've all put their own version of poison on there, because remember that poison is being worked out from 5% of your attack. Okay, your hero's attack. To each hero that you place down can place down poison, it works it out separately. That's what it means by they can coexist at the same time. Right. So Esme on her ultimate has this cool little ability. When activated, increases damage by 60%. Each basic attack lands, 2 consecutive strikes instead, yada yada. But she's adding 60% damage. Okay, so when we hit our boss, we can hit our boss, we can see that we're hitting our boss for the 149 as per normal, we can see our stacks going on there. But when we trigger her ultimate, that 60% is added on for us. Okay? So when we have a look at this, let's freeze this here. So we're at 7 stacks. So 7 stacks of 149 would give us about 1043 points of damage. Now, what we've got there is we've got 1040 points of damage plus our 60% damage as well. So that is getting added on to our stacks. So we're now hitting for 1671. There's a bit of a rounding issue. I think it comes down to 1668-ish if I just chucked on 60% onto 149, but there you go. So we've got a slight rounding issue, but essentially we're only 3 points out. I think that's fine. So that 60% extra damage she does, that's included also on her poison. So the damage is worked out. There we go, that's the damage you're doing, and that's the additional point. Now we've got her here almost in Infernal Roar. That's been 149 points of damage. So this time we will swap over, we'll add on an Infernal Roar piece. Okay, the stats somewhat change a little bit, but the attack doesn't, so we should still see the 149. Okay, her HP changes and rage regen, but that's not an issue. All we've got is now we've got our attack damage plus 40%. Okay, so we can now put her down there and we can see how this does as well. So there's our poison on there. There we go, straight away we can see 149. Your poison damage is not affected by Infernal Roar. You're not going to get another 40% damage on your poison ticks with Infernal Roar. So when you have a look at the War Cabinet, when they bring out their damage things, you will see that I imagine that other sets will do better than Infernal Roar. That's not to say the other abilities from the champion aren't affected by Infernal Roar, but we're just looking at poison, so the poison ticks are not affected by it. Okay, there we go. Right, so I haven't got the same set going forward. I'm not on the test server. Hopefully I will be one day. So this is now the other set going round. So this is Soulbound Arcana almost going on. So we've got 2 pieces of Soulbound Arcana, we've got 1 Infernal Roar, and we can swap that out in a minute. So we put our Soulbound Arcana on, or almost, apart from 1 stack, and then we can see we hit for 168 points of damage. That's our new datum. And then if we just swap that last piece over, because we know we've got a Soulbound Arcana piece for it, there we go. Our HP changes and our rage regen changes, but our attack remains the same. That's the important bit we want to look at. And then when we playtest this, we're at 168 points of damage. Now, when we chuck ourselves down, we can chuck down a few other champions as well. So there we go. We can chuck down Ingrid because she's got a nice quick ultimate. 168 points of damage. There we go. We've already done 1 poison. We're on 2 poisons and we've hit 336. Now, as we go forward, can we squeeze another one in? No, we're not going to. Okay, which is a bit of a shame. We can chuck down some other heroes. There we go. We're now hitting for 185 per tick, which is a bit of an increase on what we had before. We now hit for 370, so that's for 185 twice. There we go, and we can now see that the Soulbound Arcana has now affected. But if we are going through, so let's bear this in mind. We're now at 3 stacks, okay? We hit for 370. We now hit for 555. There we go. We now hit for 1. We've now gone back to 0 again because our stacks don't carry up. We're at 218 points of damage. We'll roll this forward a touch. Okay, let's do a few more ultimates where we can. There's our second lot, and there's our third lot there. So if we were still at 218 and we've done 3 stacks, we should be seeing about 654, but we're not. We're seeing 757. So as you do ultimates, even as you're applying the poison, remember that poison's getting recalculated each time you do that hit and put another stack on. It gets recalculated again. Soulbound Arcana is what's going to win out for you with regards to your poison stacks. Remember, this is just poison. We're not including all your other abilities as well, so that may make a difference for you. Okay, and the other thing to bear in mind is just here, it's just a quick screenshot. Your poisons can crit. Okay, it's not a flat piece of damage, it is magic damage, and it can crit, and therefore you want crit rate, and you want to make sure you're building your crit damage onto your heroes as well. Okay, it's not just a flat 5% of their HP or anything like that, or 5% of your attack. It's 5% of the attack minus person's defense, and then your crit damage and all that normal stuff going on there as well. Okay, so stuff to be aware of. Now, artifacts. We're going to stick this artifact on, and this one, it reduces our max HP, brilliant. It increases our crit damage, fantastic, but we've got no crit gear on. The likelihood of us critting is very minimal, so we can have a look at what we actually do with just a level 25 artifact on, and then we know where we are. Again, it's just working out where that datum is. Okay, so with this artifact on, we can put down our Esme, we can hit the boss, and then once we get our poison up, we can see, there we go, we're on 201 points of damage. Now if we change over and we put our Spirit Siphon on, now remember we're going to hit 30% after we get 10% per consecutive hit, don't we, on the same target. Okay, so let's bear that in mind. Now, here we go, poison went on straight away. So the first stack of poison goes on before we've done our 3 consecutive hits. Now that poison is already calculated, so it's calculated before we've done any hits. The first hit went on, it put on the poison, then it's added the 10% on, but the calculation for the poison has already been done, so we're at 201. Now we've done loads of hits until we get our next set of poison on. If we get another one on in this time, there's our next poison going on. So our next poison, we can just see over there, is at 524. So we've now got our 30%. We've done 3 hits, so we have 201 points of damage. Plus our 30% gives us 262 points of damage, and then we've got 2 stacks on, so we double up our 261. That gives us 522. So we're a little bit out. I'll class that as a rounding issue. There we go. So we're only 2 points out. There we go. That's how it works. So your siphon artifact, your Spirit Siphon artifact, will work adding on the damage on there. So the reason Infernal Roar probably doesn't work on most of our champions is because the poison is not part of their basic attack. Now, Cutter, for example, his poison is attached to his basic attack, so he might work with Infernal Roar. The same with Nisal, that might work with Infernal Roar as well. I don't know, I haven't tested it. The issue is I could put the set on now, but I'd have to level him up and all sorts of things like that because he's only level 1. I don't have one line around that I've leveled up, so he might just do the minimum amount of damage, and I wouldn't get the threshold over to do any more than the minimum amount of damage. There's a sort of, if you hit the target, there's a minimum amount of damage you'll do. So I don't know if I'm going to get over that, and it'd be unfair to put him in the Infernal Roar set and then Soulbound Arcana set and say no, it doesn't work, or yes, it does. Okay, so there you go. There's a quick roundup of poisons, how it works and what it functions like. Okay, so poisons. Each individual hero puts on their own poison. Remember, they can coexist at the same time, but they're worked out at the moment that hero applies that stack of poison. So any damage boosting you've got going on at that moment of time where they replace it, that's what gets applied to all the stacks that they have previously. Infernal Roar is not affected, or does not affect your poison damage. Soulbound Arcana does. Now, I'm not saying it's going to work out best for all the heroes. I'm sure there's going to be some anomalies. However, just bear in mind that you've got a lot of other abilities as well that Infernal Roar may affect. Okay, so that is something worth considering. And then also remember that you can use crit rate and crit damage to boost up your poison damage as well. Okay, so remember it's magic damage, but also on that, because it's magic damage, make sure that if you've got someone in your team who's doing vulnerability or dropping of magic resistance, that's also going to boost up your poison damage as well. Okay, right, thank you very much for your time. If you could leave me a little thumbs up, like and subscribe on your way out the door, that'd be much appreciated, and I'll see you all in the video again soon. Thank you very much. Cheers. Goodbye.